guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Georgia, and today I thought I'd sit down, have a cup of coffee, do my makeup and everything while talking about a TV programme. Today's TV programme I'm going to be talking about is The Walking Dead: The World Beyond. It is a new series that came on Amazon Prime recently. I'm not sure if it's just available on Amazon Prime, but it is a 10-part series, mainly focused around teenagers or the first generation of kids who have grown up in the Walking Dead universe. I have some thoughts, some predictions, and also spoilers about this series, so if you have not watched it yet and you don't want spoilers, don't carry on watching, but otherwise if you don't care, then keep on watching. I am going to be using a few new products today. I don't really know how I'm going to get on with them and everything, but I will be testing them out. I'll leave everything down in the description what I've used today, but otherwise I'll just start talking about The Walking Dead: World Beyond. When the idea for the TV programme was first originally, not necessarily pitched, but the first thing I'd heard of it, it seemed like it was going to be very teenager based, or very based on the younger generation of how they would be getting on in the zombie apocalypse. And then it was also saying about they went outside their own walls, so they'd be leaving their town for some reason. So I kind of thought it'd be a very younger kind of generation based TV show. They have done it so there are 4 main characters. They are all teenagers and they become friends once they leave their compound, their place they live, but alongside they also have 2 adults who are like the security detail, and a lot of the decisions are kind of based on them or how they interact with the world and how they know the world is and everything outside. So not a lot of it is very teenage character based, I don't think. The idea of like a zombie apocalypse and a teenager being out there in that world and they've grown up in that kind of environment, or at least in that time, you would think that they would be trained a lot more, or they would know exactly what was out there, or a bit more scared at least. None of the characters really appeared to be that bothered, or really appeared to just, when they first saw a walker or an empty that they called it on this show, they, I don't know, they just didn't seem to really, they weren't that scared, they weren't that bothered, they weren't that, and I feel like maybe they should have been a bit more scared, or like the fear should have been put in them by somebody. Like it appears later on that one of the girls has had training from somebody in the security sort of detail, but even her training doesn't really seem to be working. She doesn't really do anything or do anything that's really that drastic to help save the others. She just kind of, she doesn't, they just seem to push them a lot. Like in every single zombie thing you ever watch, how do you kill a zombie? The head. You shoot them in the head, stab them in the head or something, you know? You get them in their head and they die. This girl, she was just pushing them over with a stick and I wasn't doing anything. Like, I just don't get it. Like, I know they were trying to be different and they were trying to make a different sort of thing that wasn't so gory maybe, or so scary for anybody, so they could start watching The Walking Dead, or it's meant to be aimed at the younger people watching it. But it didn't really do anything for the true fans of The Walking Dead. I think people who have watched The Walking Dead and Fear The Walking Dead were just expecting a bit more, just for it to be based on a different generation. But like if you think about Judith and even Carl in Walking Dead, they are very independent. They know what trouble they're getting into. Maybe not Carl in the very first few seasons because he was dumb, but you know later on they kind of have learnt. They've learnt how to kill. Like Judith, she will go out at any opportunity to go and help the team. She is treated in the way that she deals with the walkers almost as an adult. And I know it's meant to be different for these kids, but it just didn't really show anything. It didn't really show much fear in them either. They were just like, oh, there's a empty, what do I do? And then they just relied, especially once the adults turned up, they just relied on the adults. I feel like they should have done it a bit more. So these kids were either really well prepared. Of course they would still be scared. They are either really well prepared, they had training, it had shown a lot of them having their training inside the compound before they left. Like sure, it's meant to be a teenager based experience, but these kids still have been badass and could have gone out and kicked some butt, you know? But instead none of them really knew what they were doing. One kid was just wearing a blazer and telling us all about science facts or something. He was obviously meant to be a bit geeky, meant to be like, oh, this is blah 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 sort of thing, and he's wearing a blazer that he's made out of corduroy or something like that, which helps protect against zombie bites. But yeah, he never goes near one anyway. Anyway, that's just a kind of some of my overall thoughts to start off with. I just don't really understand why they made a lot of the choices that they decided to do with anything. The first few episodes only had 2-star rating, which I completely understood. The first episode I watched and I was just like, what the hell? None of them have even killed a walker, really. There wasn't really any sort of that much zombie experience and stuff going on. There was no real threat or anything, or any real sort of thing to be scared about or anything like that. There was no suspense. There was nothing to keep me watching. And I was unsure whether to carry on watching it, but because it's a Walking Dead franchise type thing, I was like, you know what, I will carry on watching it because there's nothing else I'd do anyway. It actually turned out a lot better. The first episode was terrible. It was so bad. I don't understand why they decided to go with that. How do they expect people to carry on watching? I think they were relying too much on it being part of the Walking Dead sort of series and that people would tune in and watch it. But I guess that didn't really work out that well because they've only got something like 4.6 stars on Internet Movie Database at the moment, which is not that good, seeing as The Walking Dead, I believe, has got 8 or 9, and then Fear the Walking Dead's got 5 or 6. I just think that first episode was not good at all. It just didn't do anything. It didn't draw in any new fans. I don't think it really helped the old fans appeal, like, to carry on watching it or anything. It just wasn't really. And even the next few episodes afterwards weren't that great. The third or fourth, maybe fifth episode, it did get kind of interesting. And the story then did come together at the end. And it was an alright series at the end of it. But the first episode was just... Again, I know they were trying to make it different than The Walking Dead. And they were trying to make it different to everything else. But it was just too different. The only similarity was the fact there might be a few zombies out there walking around. There was literally nobody though, you know? A lot of the series was very flashback based as well, which wasn't really that interesting, and it was almost like every time they'd get in a bit of a predicament, which it wasn't much of one, like they never got trapped anywhere, never really were feared for their life. Anytime they got into a predicament, they would have a flashback to be like, why is this person so upset in this episode? What happened? Why is their life so affected by something that's happened in the past? What can they do in this episode that can overcome their opinion of something that happened in the past? Rather than dealing with their dilemmas in the episodes as they were happening, it was like dealing with their emotional baggage from the past. This just was very flashback based. And I only really wanted to watch it for what was happening in the now. Like, I know it makes a character, but they relied on that a lot. They relied on trying to make characters people by having flashbacks. Okay, so let's talk quickly about the first episode, because obviously there's a lot to unpack in the whole series, but let's just go into the first episode a bit. I feel like they've tried too hard with the characters and making them, like, Hope being like the rebel one, the Iris being like, oh, she's such a good citizen, she was going around being like class president or something or other, and she was being really welcoming, and they were all just very naive. Even Hope, who was meant to be like a bit of the bad girl, you know, she was making her own alcohol and stuff, she's not really, she was not at all. She did not have enough attitude towards people. They did not make her, she was unlikable in a way, but they didn't try to make her unlikable. They were trying to make her family friendly still, but in a, oh yeah, maybe an alcohol kind of way. Anyway, that's not the point of this. In this episode, basically, the two sisters, who are the main protagonists, is that the right word, of the show, they get a message from their dad, and it turns out their dad has gone to the CRM to be a scientist there or something, and at the same time they've kind of made a coded machine thing so they can send messages to each other, and he sends that he needs help, and Hope tells her sister that dad needs help, we've got to go and get him, something must be going on, and the main lady from the CRM is there at the time, and they question her being like, oh, where's my dad, we want to see him, what's happening with him and stuff, and she draws them a map. I don't know how easy it is just to get a map from a villain in these TV shows, but I guess that's the main part of the show. That's what makes the show go forward, because they've got a map and they know where to look for their dad. That is part of the story plot, but I just think it was a bit, it's not even like she'd left it down somewhere and they picked it up. She literally drew them out a map. Which is then annoying because in the episodes later, they find like these coded sheets, like yellow and different colour sheets, where they can put it over a light and put it on top of a map and it shows the markings on it. There is no way that map that woman drew out just quickly as a convenience to get the girls to shut up and go away would fit exactly to the measurements of these coded sheets, and then it appear on there and they would know exactly where to go. It would not be to scale, it would not show up at all. They'd be looking for their dad maybe like 2,000 yards away from where he actually was, you know? I don't even know what that distance is, but no way would that be actually specific and work out to be that way. I just don't believe it. No. Anyway, so they then set off. I think it's just the two of them to start off with. They then set off and the other two boys join them because they're like, what are you doing? We're bored of our lives. Let's go outside the walls. I want to prove myself. And the other guy's like, I wanted a new beginning and everyone hates me here and thinks I beat my dad up, which he did, but that's another story. So they decide to go, they'll leave, and then one of them, Hope, is leaving tins behind to almost like cookie crumbs, bread trail, you know, a breadcrumb trail, that's the one, of food, rations, empty rations and stuff, so the others know where they are. So Felix and Huck come and find them. They're the two security people and they can't help find them, and I don't understand why they just give in to these kids. They're just teenagers. They've never been outside the walls before. They're so naive, they're so stupid, they're so unaware of things. They just want to find their dad, but they don't know a single thing about the world, and so easily they're just like, the two adults turn up and like, yeah, let's carry on going. Why not? Of course they try and turn around, but not that hard, you know. But once again, that's part of what keeps the show going forward. It just happens by chance. And it's not even a thing that believable that just keeps it going on. It's just like, okay, we'll stick around with these kids then. And while they're gone, the CRM blow up their home base place anyway. They don't know that until the last episode. But then I was also thinking, when I was watching that episode, the first episode, just now, all these kids running around saying, oh, Iris, hi. And she's got best friends. Like, oh, hey, how's this going? Hi. And she said hello to everybody. They're all dead. They're all dead. Every single one of them. The CRM just blew up the base. And all the zombies came in, dead. Not much of a teenagers kids show now, is it? One of the things which seem to be different between this show and the other Walking Dead shows is the fact they're not actually trying to survive in the show. The other two Walking Dead series were about survival. It's about getting his family to survive. The same again with Alicia and her mum, I can't remember her mum's name, trying to survive with their families and everything. Whereas this one wasn't so much, they didn't even come across anything they needed to survive. It's not they got out and they run out of their rations, or someone had stolen their rations and they had to try and survive, they had to try and find things. Sure, they stopped along the way and found things, but that wasn't a big part of the story. That wasn't a big thing, which is again very important in the other TV shows because it's literally the end of the world, which I think is very different again, and they didn't really put emphasis on that because they didn't think about it. They didn't need to think about it because all these kids just don't even care about that. Maybe that's what the show is, in this deep, deep layer. Just show you teenagers don't care. They think they're invincible. They don't care. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what I'm missing. Maybe I've got so old now I just don't even see that anymore. And also another thing about the first episode is, why do they all look like they're wearing wigs? Every single one of them. Their hair is so bad. They look like they're wearing wigs. When Hope gets out from underneath that bus, maybe she meant to be a bit windswept or something, but she literally looks, her hair is so bad. But then their hair gets better when they go outside. In this compound they're in, they probably have hot water, they probably have electricity so they can dry their hair, straighten their hair, brush their hair, they have hairbrushes. That's like not an essential you have to try and decide whether I should pack my hairbrush or not when you're going out on a bloody zombie adventure. You have it in your house, don't you? It's just, we had to literally Google it to see if that was their real hair, and it is. I don't know why it looked like that. To be honest with you, I can't really remember what else happens in the other few episodes after that. It's the same stuff, you know, someone's having a dilemma and they have a flashback to their past life and they're like, oh, that really affected me. And the whole time we keep seeing Hope, when she was younger, on the first night it all happened, the night the sky fell, she shot a woman because the woman shot her mum. So she shot the woman back. She was 6 years old and she shot this other woman. Fair enough. But it turns out to be Elton's mum, which is this other kid in the group. And she only realises it once Elton shows her his mum's like script or screenplay or something. I can't remember what it is. She's written something and it's got her picture in it. So she sees the picture and realises that's the woman I killed that night 10 years ago or something. How does she remember? And also then she kept a necklace, which she's been fiddling around with the whole time. How has Elton not seen her touch this necklace already? I do not know. But yeah, they're also young when it happened anyway, so it's not like, oh, he'd be like, yeah, sure, I forgive you, but she didn't tell him straight away when she saw the photo, which is what he's gonna be mad at her about more than anything. Yeah, this is something she's been hiding from Iris as well. She's like, oh my god, I'm such a bad person. So yeah, this was kind of like the only part of the storyline I was actually cared about because I wanted to see what would happen, but they were already like pairing people off. So they were pairing Silas off with Iris, trying to make them a couple, and then of course goddamn Percy comes along and ruins it. They were kind of trying to pair Elton off with Hope, which I actually kind of shipped at the end of it. Elton actually was pretty cute at the end of it and everything. I liked him. I think the first 2 episodes they really ruined it because they didn't make people like the characters. They didn't give people a chance to care about the characters or anything. Whereas those people who carried on watching it, I don't know how everyone felt towards the end, but I actually liked it a lot better towards the end, and I liked the characters a lot more compared to when I first started watching it. I didn't care about them at all. Whereas that was a part of the Walking Dead series that I really liked. They were this big family. They're all looking out for each other. They had the main lead, which was Rick, and he cared about everyone. Everyone respected him and everything. And the people that didn't respect him, obviously, he ended up getting rid of, you know. There was none of that dynamic or anything in this series. It was very much like, I'll give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Like, it couldn't have been that person. It couldn't have been this and that that's happening. Like, it was just tiring to watch because it was like, oh my god, get a grip. If you want to survive in this world, you've got to survive in this world. And especially it being only a 10 episode series, I think they spent a lot of time on people's backstory and their grief and trying to deal with what they're dealing with. They just spent too much time on each character rather than it being like a part of the overall story and them having things going on. It was like each episode almost focused on a different character, and then like the storyline didn't really fit together very well. And then in one of these episodes, Huck like disappeared. She's like, why don't I go and scout ahead for like 48 hours or something? See, there is, I'll come back, I'll get some supplies and stuff. And she actually goes off and she meets with, which is the person we assume is her mum. Well, it is her mum, but she is the head woman from CRM that we met earlier in the first episode. Huck has been working with this CRM to get the asset, which is Hope. It's kind of clear because she's been spending a lot of time with her in the rest of the series already. And my sister actually like commented to say, like, is Huck Hope's mum? Because she looks quite similar. But we don't actually know because Hope is adopted, so it could be a possibility, but that isn't the end storyline. That isn't what happens in the end. It's never mentioned that she's got a kid or she's given a kid up for adoption or anything. But yeah, so then she ends up taking Hope separately, or trying to take her separately. But Hope works out the code that they found, and it says something along the lines of the agent is now with the others, the one that come on the raft, which was Huck they found on a raft originally. And this stuff basically with her, she's got the asset, they're going to get rid of the other ones. The other ones are expendable, they can be killed. So Hope sees this and decides that she's going to go with Huck to save the others, and ends up, they both sneak out like in the middle of the night or something to leave. Then Hope questions Huck about it and she's like, oh. And then loads of zombies turn up and she's like, use your training, use like I taught you. And then this is basically what she did. Use what I taught you. And she basically just goes, and pushes the zombie away with her sword thing that she's got. Instead of just taking the end of it, which is a blade, and she just pushes them away. And barely does anything. These kids barely do anything in this. If anything, that was like, not say the biggest plot twist, but that was the plot twist or the storyline at the end, was the fact that Huck was working for the CRM and she was the one who actually had killed Tony and injured Percy and made it look like Silas did it. But yeah, that's basically the story. Obviously, the others catch up with them and they find out that she was after her the whole time. And she's kind of like, Hope, you don't know who you are and all this stuff. And I thought it was going to turn out, okay, fine. Like my sister was saying, maybe she was adopted. Maybe she's her mum, that you don't know who you are and you're so important to us. We need to have you back. But it's just because apparently she's really clever. She's really smart. Like her dad, who works as a scientist now for the CRM, has been telling his new girlfriend over there about his daughters, and been telling her about Hope, who apparently really fixed a computer together when she was like 6 years old or something. She's really clever. She took a computer apart completely and put it back together, and it worked. And he told her that, and the woman was like, we need her in our town. We need someone for the future. That's basically what the whole CRM thing is about the future and building for the future. So the series did get better towards the end, and it was good with that little like plot twist type thing, because we did find out a few episodes earlier that Huck was actually working with the CRM and everything, but how it all came together actually turned out really, I say really well, okay, it came together pretty well compared to the rest of the series, you know. I think it did actually get pretty good in the end, so I will not take back everything I said, because obviously I'm having a big rant about it now, but I will continue watching, and I will watch the next season if it does come out. This could be a completely different series. This didn't have to do anything with The Walking Dead. They've only put it with that so they would get people to watch it, so they'd make money from it. If a completely different TV like production company had made it and they hadn't put anything with it at all, I doubt that many people would have watched it. they probably wouldn't continue with another series because it wasn't even that good. I don't think they got the many views in, or even the reviews and stuff were really bad for it. The last 2 episodes were released as like at the same time. I think that was good because the 9th episode, it ended, not in a cliffhanger, but it ended, and I'm glad that there was a next episode to watch straight away, because it would have annoyed me if they had to wait another week for it and then just for that to be the ending. So at this point in the last episode, Huck and Hope have gone off to meet the helicopter, the CRM. Elton has gone off and he's found Percy, and then he's met back up with Silas, who had left earlier. And then there is Felix and Iris who are left. They're walking through some woods or something, and she's saying about, oh, we're gonna get her back. It's like, how do you know you're gonna get her back? And it's like, I just know, you know? Because then it shows that when Hope said her goodbye and hugged Iris, she was like, we're gonna be back together soon, basically, because together we're a team and all that stuff. The thing's meant to be like, oh, it was both of them that have been smart together. It hasn't always just been Hope, it's Hope and Iris. So basically the second season is going to be Iris going after Hope and all that stuff. And then the dad, he told his girlfriend that he thinks something's going on with the security at CRM, because his security guard that he had come from their old compound in Omaha, I don't remember actually it is. They say a few different places, I can never actually remember what they are. Their old compound they came from, a security deal came with them, which was Will, who is Felix's boyfriend. But it only really shows that again in the last episode. He spoke about him before, but it only really shows it as a flashback in the very last episode. So that's when you know that Will is going to make an appearance, because obviously they always do that stuff. And then he does make an appearance. So basically, the dad is telling his girlfriend in the new place, oh, I think Will's like team haven't come back from their scouting mission type thing yet. And she's like, oh, don't worry, they're probably back soon. And there's another doctor who has left and he's gone to visit his sister. And the dad's like, oh, I'm a bit suspicious about that too. So she knows about Hope, and she was doing this whole speech thing. She was going to say to him, oh, listen, like, Hope's coming soon. I know you don't need to be mad at me, but I told them about what you'd said about her being so great. And she's about to tell him that, and he's like, oh, well, I think security detail are a bit suspicious at the moment, like something's going on here. So obviously she's like pro CRM and she loves them basically. So she then obviously is then worried about what the dad, Leo, is going to think or say, or what sort of trouble he's going to cause, especially once his daughter gets there. So she doesn't really say anything to him. But then it goes to showing Felix and Iris walking through the woods, again, talking, having this flashback moment and stuff, and they come across a group of people in the shadows or in the fog, and it's Will, and must be his scouting team that have left. We only know it's Will because it's literally shown this flashback. We've never seen the guy before. And he's like, oh, hi, Felix. He gives him a hug and everything, like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, you don't know what happened, like, I'll have to tell you, I have to update you, basically being about what happened back at their compound, where the CRM came in and, like, blew up. I don't think they blew up, they must have done something, broke down the walls or something. They did all their stuff, they did, and no one knows about that yet. So he's like, oh, did you haven't heard about this, or thank God I thought you were dead, sort of thing, because of this happened. And then it shows Will, and he must have like his band of merry men in the back with him. It doesn't quite explain what their story is yet, but I assume they've either left or they're on their scouting mission and they just haven't come back yet, and it's not anything really dodgy going on yet. He just finds them while they're out. So I guess he's going to fill him in all the details. Felix is going to tell him about everything as well, so he'll know what's going on. So yeah, it really does set up for season 2, because then you're going to be finding out what actually is going on with Will, why he's out there, what he's doing and everything. What Leo is going to get himself into trouble for by mentioning this to his girlfriend. What's going to happen when Hope turns up, like whether she'll still have loyalties to Huck or not, because they were quite close the whole time, obviously before she found out that she was like keeping an eye on them and everything, but they were quite close the whole time, so I don't know how their relationship's going to go. But I assume that maybe Huck is going to come around, because she didn't know either that they'd blown up the compound back at the place. So I assume they're going to make her come around. They didn't make her the villain as such, they made her a friend of the others still. That they made her someone that the others could rely on, like she was such a good friend of Felix's as well and everything, that I don't think they're just going to write her off as a bad guy straight up. I think they will try and bring her around a bit more so the others like her again, and whether she'll try and get away from her mum and the family and the CRM and everything as well. The second series will probably be based in like the CRM base. I say this all if there's going to be a second series, I just assume there's going to be. It seems like it's going to be based a lot of the time in there, or they're going to be a lot more of them this time round. So with like Will and all his people and everything. So already the idea of, oh, it's showing the kids in their first generation of living in zombie land, they've already lost that sort of idea because it's not going to continue as much as that. They are probably going to have other characters to focus on. So hopefully that will mean things like you can then lose characters. There's going to be that sort of thing where you will grow to like characters and there's a chance of them dying. Whereas in this first season, there wasn't enough of them and they're all quite young to carry them off. And I think that's what a lot of the Walking Dead series relies on. Overall, I do think the actors were pretty good in it. I just think it was lost on the characters or how they tried to make the characters come across in a way. But the acting was good in it otherwise. They just I don't think they really had a lot to act for or to. They didn't really have any scenes where they had to be really scared or had to be really anything other. It was a lot of time they'd run for help and they would shout for Felix to come and help them. They could have done a lot more with it and made these characters really independent. Like I was saying before, someone like Carl or Judith is at the moment, I know she's not a teenager, but someone like that. Even Enid, when she was in Walking Dead, how her character was, they were very willing to go and do things themselves. Sure, they were scared, but they did things to overcome their fears. Whereas in this, it was like, oh, they're so scared, but let's just give them a flashback scene instead and make them overcome that instead. I just feel like they should have done something a bit different with the show. I know they wanted to do it different to the other two, but they could have had it more teen-based. Even if they had a bigger group of them going out, or had a group of them who've lost their the adults they're with or something. They've gone somewhere, they've lost and got just like separated from or something. Like I said, the characters were slightly annoying at the beginning. I didn't really like any of them or like root for any of them or be like, oh yeah, this is the lead person I want to follow through the whole show and I want them to survive and overcome things and I want the best for them. It was just like, you know, instead. But as we see in the last episode when he has the flashback to Felix with Will, we see Felix's arm and he has got a tattoo. His whole arm is covered in black. Whether it's part of like the thing of being in their group or being in their security thing or not, I don't know. But Huck mentioned something, which might be completely different, but she mentioned she has a cut on her face. Like she did that to herself, she cut her face so she'd remember what she had done to the other people that were in her military team. And she says to her mum, oh, do you think I did this to my face or to my arm to like just think that I'm not, just like, has that not proved enough to the others? Which it didn't actually show her arm, actually address what she did, but then later on you see you see Felix's arm later on and he has got the full tattoo, like black sleeve tattoo on his arm. And I don't know whether she has, not just shown it and they've really addressed it, or whether that's his tattoo in real life or not, I do not know. From what I can see, from what I've looked at, the actor does have tattoos in real life, but it's not that black sleeve. It must be other ones that they've got on their arm, which maybe the show just had to cover up because they weren't like relevant to the story or anything. It looks like pictures of people's faces or something. So maybe they just covered it up by doing the full back sleeve. And then, but I don't know if that's part of the storyline with Huck. Maybe that is what it alludes to. They've just never shown it. Yeah, it's not that important. It's just something I was just thinking about. Overall, I just turned out the show and everything. I understand why people did stop watching it because the first episode wasn't that great. The ones after that weren't that great either, so I do understand that. But I just think it could have been so much better. I'm excited to see what they do in season 2 and what will happen next. I love anything like Walking Dead shows, and I am pretty sad that the next season of The Walking Dead is going to be the last one. We are going to be getting Rick Grimes movies and stuff, but I don't know when that's happening, how long it's going to be, and when it actually will come about and what it's actually going to be about and whether anything will actually get, you know. I have always been quite interested in like film and TV and how they portray things and why they choose to do things and the actors and like script choices, camera angles, all of that stuff, you know. I'm quite interested in that, and I do appreciate a visually good movie or one that just has good choices for things and ideas behind things. Well, it is quite thoughtful. I know not every single TV show is like this either. Not every TV show aims to be, and I wouldn't expect it to be, and I don't just only sit around and watch that. I do love watching normal stuff and absolute junk at the same time as well. It's not like I watch anything. I'm not a film snob or a TV snob or anything like that, but I just enjoy talking about it and thinking about these things. So let me know if you have any thoughts on the TV show down below, or any of the other Walking Dead TV shows, and whether they'll come together and be like a crossover anytime soon, or whether the crossover's going to be in the films and stuff. And let me know if you think I should try and talk about any other TV shows as well, because I was just thinking I could talk about Riverdale, with how like trash that is and everything. It's just something different to do, and just to sit down and have something to talk about while I'm doing my makeup, because a lot of time it is kind of hard to like do makeup and think about talking about something at the same time, but it's something that I enjoy like thinking about and everything. So let me know what you think, and also if there's any other TV shows you think I should check out which are kind of similar to this or have the similar sort of thing as well. Let me know. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. This is something a bit different that I'm doing. I really enjoyed doing it today, and this is the finished look. Yeah, I forgot we were here for the makeup. This is the finished look. I used the Beauty Bay Identity palette and just went in and did like a row. I think I did, yeah, row 5, which is this pinky sort of red colour in there as well. I just went in and tried out this look. The idea of this palette is there's a base, transition, crease, liner, pop and highlight. I didn't put any highlight on, quick. Anyway, so that's the idea of this palette, which I think is quite cool. It's a nice like starter palette, as well as being like advanced enough to have all these different colours in there. And there's a few different versions of these palettes as well, so even if these colours are too different or bright for you, they do a few different like nude ones as well. I did this last time and it's so much better to go with my finger. I don't know why I'm forgetting this. I did it myself. Anyway, yeah, thank you so much for watching. This could probably be a complete mess. I'll sit down to edit and be like, what was I even chatting about half the time? But I enjoyed it. Yeah. Thank you, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!